Hello everyone, Ember here and welcome back to a new video. In this one I'm going to be taking a look at a card that was banned in Expanded, as well as a new EX Pokemon, as well as a new set reveal. So basically Scoop Up Net was banned in Expanded, for Japan at least. If you don't know what Scoop Up Net does, basically it says put one of your Pokemon that isn't a Pokemon V or Pokemon GX into your hand. Now unfortunately this card is kind of broken in Expanded because basically, it doesn't include just Roblox Pokemon like it really should have done. I think the term Roblox wasn't defined until much later on, sadly, in the TCG. So, unfortunately, this card can be used to pick up Pokemon EX, not just to the new EX though. So, stuff like Gardevoir and Charizard, for example, but it can also pick up stuff like Shaman and, because like those EX Pokemon from the XY era. So basically, it went from Black and White featured EX cards to XY, which also featured EX cards. Then we stepped into the GX era, which was Sun and Moon. And then Sword and Shield and Scarlet and Violet have been Vs, V Star, V Max, and then basically the newer EX cards. So ScoopNet kind of broken. Kind of expected this, I think, to be honest. I think a lot of people kind of figured this would happen eventually, but it was just kind of a matter of time because it is kind of problematic. It also sort of invalidates a deck called Tina Chomp, apparently. Now, I've personally stopped caring that much, really caring about Expanded, partly due to the fact because, of course, TCG Live does not have the full Expanded, doesn't have XY, and some, not all, but some of my favorite cards in Expanded format are actually from the XY era, so that's kind of why I don't really care about the format as well. But also because, it is sort of just really broken and, there's a lot of discussions about what should be done about Expanded. Personally, I don't think there's really one correct answer because there's just so many varying opinions. So it doesn't really make sense to go with what the community wants for the format because there's just so many different ideas. For example, one idea is that Expanded should just be forgotten about and essentially replaced with GLC, which, as much as I want GLC to be an official format, I really don't think it's worth canning a format that already exists just to get one new one. Because you look at like card games like Magic the Gathering, for example, that have multiple formats. Pokemon has one, maybe two at best. It has standard and then kind of expanded, I guess, but mostly just expanded in Japan. And then it also has GLC at side events, which are mainly organized by smaller groups of players. So basically, I don't think Expanded should just be replaced by GLC. If anything, we should get GLC in addition to Expanded. So there's also the opinion that Expanded really needs a lot of bans to get it under control. And as much as I want to agree with this, I've done videos in the past where I've said stuff like Double Dragon G or like Lily's Pokédoll should be banned. Basically, people have turned around and said, no, that's not a good idea because a lot of people that defend Expanded will just say stuff like, all the broken decks is what makes it special and unique. And like maybe that's the case, but it's not fun playing against any of those decks if you're trying to do something creative and Expanded. Like I remember trying to experiment with different combos and Expanded and then just getting absolutely steamrolled by a Lugia deck that basically just went turn one going second, mind you, Wally into Lugia V Star to then Battle Compressor for two Archeops and then basically get a turn one Lugia V Star powered up, fully charged up, going second, swing for 280 damage, which is completely ridiculous, completely broken, doesn't make any sense that that should be possible in the format, and yet it is. And there's also decks that, use stuff like Wobbuffet, Garbodor, which I know some people think Garbodor is pretty toxic. I personally don't think Garbodor is actually that bad, at least compared to stuff like Lily's Pokédoll and Stole decks, but yeah, there's definitely some varying opinions about that. Of course, that's just my take on it. A lot of people do think Expanded is fine. Even though I've seen like a lot of YouTubers say they really don't like Expanded, there does seem to be like a lot of support for it. For example, if you go on this article on PokeBeach and you take a look at the comments, I'm not going to read them over today because I've been through them several times already today. But basically, they kind of go on a tangent about like they really like Expanded and they think it's pretty good and stuff and all the rest of it. But I'm personally not of that opinion, and I kind of just don't see myself really caring about this ban all that much. It's not like that impactful. I know it's a big deal to people who play the format, but until Expanded gets more attention, at least, in TCG Live or IRL, then, I don't see this being a massive issue. Also, I would like to say this next point, which is basically the equivalent of saying my granddad's cousin's best friend works at Nintendo. But basically, I heard from a friend who also heard from someone else, I'm assuming it's his friend, that basically Pokemon plans to discontinue Expanded within the next few years. Now, I'm not sure how true that is. You've obviously got to take this with a pinch of salt. But if that's true, then it does sort of make sense in a way that Pokemon want to discontinue Expanded. It's basically full of all these decks, which are full of cards that were never meant to be played together, like Electro GX is kind of crazy. It's made worse by the fact that we have Wally and stuff, but it's a bit of a strange format. It's very difficult to talk about because, of course, you want to be able to play these classic cards, but so many of them are just trash anyway compared to the most broken cards, which are often some of the newer cards as well. So, yeah, it's a weird format to talk about, and I just think it's I guess a step in the right direction to get rid of Scoop of Net, but I really don't see how the format will be mainstream, at least not for a while. But yeah, that's just my 2 cents on it. Let me know down below what you think about ScubaNet being banned in Japan. Next up, though, is I do actually want to talk about a bunch of gym promos that were revealed. Basically, some of them are just kind of like whatever. There's like a new Pansear and Horsey. I'm assuming we'll get some of these in like a regular set in the West, like a special set or something, but especially Gargankel. I doubt he'll be a gym promo in the West, but we do have some new cards. There was another Tinkerton revealed, which is just like whatever. Like, no one cares really. 220 damage is kind of a lot, but it's for 3 energy on a stage 2, 140 HP. It's just terrible. So, yeah, a bit sad. But then we have a Gargankel EX, which is quite nice because we do have multiple Gargankel, which are actually pretty cool. This one also has 340 HP. Has the ability Salt Body. It says it can't be affected by special conditions. Well, I don't care about that because special conditions just aren't relevant in the game right now. But the attack is actually pretty good. For fighting double colors, Block Hammer does 170, and during your opponent's next turn's Pokemon takes 60 less damage from attacks. So taking 60 less while already having 340 just makes you extremely tanky. And you're still two-shotting everything in the game, even if you use, well, not if you use double turbo, but you're still two-shotting everything if you manually attach all the way up to Block Hammer, but if you want to use double turbo, you're still doing 150, which is still a decent chunk of damage to be doing, so I don't think this card is terrible, actually. I think it'd be very fun to build around, but, it's like a Crushing Hammer's Ice Pop Stall deck, but yeah, should be interesting to see how this one plays out. Then we also have Rayfort. Is that her name? Rayfort? I don't know. It says look at the top 5 cards of your deck. You may discard any number of cards you find there and put the other cards back in any order. Very strange card. I don't see this being used in many decks. Maybe Mad Party or something in Expanded, but yeah. Just seems a bit of an odd card. Or yeah, I guess United Wings if you want to try that in Standard, but just seems like a very niche and hyper-specific card. But yeah, I guess it could be cool in something. But we have the last piece of news to go over, which is probably my favorite piece of news actually out of all of these 3, which is that there was a new set revealed for Japan, and this is going to be another shiny set. So this is basically like VMAX Climax and Shiny Star V that also released in Japan. So basically going to get all of these like shiny variants of these Pokemon, which is really nice. Now this will be mostly reprints. As you can see, we've got Meowscarada, Skeledirge, and Quaxlava here. But there'll also be some more recent cards like this, in my opinion, amazing version of the Charizard. So, there will be some relevant cards basically. Also, if we zoom in on this image, you can see there's a Houndsdoom there. There's also a Baxcalibur. There is the Charmander to match a Charizard. There's Paldean Wooper, so I'm assuming we're getting a Paldean, what's it called again? Clodsire or something? Paldean Clodsire. So there is actually going to be a lot of collectible Pokemon in this set, and basically if you just want to go extra max rarity for your deck, then this set will be a way to do that. It won't be called, what's it called? Shiny Treasure in the West. I'd imagine it'd be called like something Fates. So we've had like Shining Fates and Hidden Fates before, so it'll be something along those lines. It's also worth mentioning that there will be several new cards as well. This set will contain maybe 15 to 30 brand new cards, and there's also like reprints to ensure last year's cards are available to Japanese players and collectors. So basically like a bunch of relevant trainers, which is also nice. We do have one new supporter to take a look at today, though. Clive says your opponent reveals their hand, draw 2 cards for each sports card you find there. So basically, this is like a draw 2, maybe draw 4 sometimes. Rarely you're going to be able to draw like 6 or 8 cards with this, but it's a fun card, but yeah, nothing too crazy. And also, like, we rarely get many new competitive new cards from these sets. That's worth mentioning. And yeah, there's actually not much else really to talk about here. But basically, we should be seeing a bunch of amazing new artworks, I guess, like amazing new max rarity. I haven't still got around to actually building Mouse Carter yet, so should be fun to do. But yeah, that'll be releasing in the West sometime next year, hopefully. I think we are getting a special set in January in the West, funnily enough, but like I haven't seen anything for it yet, so maybe that's what this will be. But yeah, it would be interesting to see if we're getting this in January for our special set. But yeah, so SCUBNet is kind of like the biggest piece of news here, but I don't know how impactful this will be in the long run. But yeah, it's been our power. Let me know what you think down below. And thank you for watching.